All right, guys, with the new National Association of Realtors settlement coming down, we are asking the question today, is it worth it to use a realtor?
You better get fired up.
What's going on, lady? How you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Joe?
I'm doing amazing, man. I'm doing amazing. I think this is perfect timing for this topic. And just to give everybody a little bit of background, I don't know that I fully understand the settlement at this point, and I don't think anybody does, because there's a lot of verbal stuff that's been put out there, but the settlement has not been accepted in writing at this point. But what they're talking about is right now in current real estate world, I come and list your house and we list it at X percent. Let's just say 6%. That's a pretty typical commission. And you and I agree on how much of that is going to be paid out to a buyer's agent to attract that buyer's agent to your listing. So maybe I keep 3% and the other 3% goes to that agent, right? Well, what NAR is now agreeing to, the National Association of Realtors, through the settlement, is that no MLS will be allowed to advertise a buyer agent commission, right? So now the question is, okay, if I'm a buyer's agent, I'm not showing homes if I know at least I don't know I'm going to be paid. So I'm going to have to work with my buyer. And part of the settlement also is buyers no longer may be able to see homes without being in a buyer broker agreement with an agent, right? So if Lissette is called by you through whatever, maybe you saw it on Zillow, maybe you saw the sign, whatever it is, and you say, hey, Lissette, I'd like to go see this home at 123 3rd Street. Depending upon how this settlement rolls out, you may not be able to see it unless with her or some other agent, you sign an agreement stating, I'm going to work with you for X amount of time, and you will be paid X amount in commission. Now, that commission, whatever it is, say it's 3%, can be decreased by the commission being paid out by the seller, right? But if that seller's not paying anything or they're paying a really low commission, you now as a buyer will be responsible for that difference, which might be the full commission, right? So the question is becoming, and we're beating this to the punch because we don't know what the outcome of this settlement is going to be. We don't know if there's going to be changes, how are they going to implement these things. I'll give you an example. Can you go look at an open house without signing a buyer broker agreement? They don't know yet. They're talking about this, right? So the question becomes, is it worth it to pay 2.5%, 3.5% to an agent? Say on a $400,000 home, that's roughly $10,000 to $14,000 just to get an agent's help. Is it worth it? So with that, Lissette, I'm going to put the pressure on you and have you answer that question. Is it worth it getting a realtor? And let's stick from the buyer's point of view. I think for years we've talked about the seller's point of view. Let's talk about from the buyer's point of view.
I think the building block of all this, the lawsuit, the settlement, and all the changes that will be taking place, whether one way or another in the near future, is just that maybe our clientele doesn't understand exactly what we do. Maybe they don't understand the value that we bring to it and what's the positives and what we keep them from and what we avoid happening throughout the transaction. So I think throughout all these changes, it's really important that we start educating our buyers, also as our sellers, but let's focus right now on the buyers. And one of the first things I could just think right off the top of my head is we understand the market. An experienced agent, someone that knows their area, knows pricing, not only is going to guide you towards the right property that fits what you're looking for what your needs, but also for what your financial situation is.
Yeah.
We are communicating with your lender and we understand, for example, maybe you are in a certain price point, but when we add that HOA or maybe those taxes or that insurance, that property that you're looking at no longer applies to you. So understanding the market is just the very first step in what I think of value that we bring to our buyers.
I think you're spot on. And if I reverse engineer the why, right? Like a listing agent, when you go into a listing, you generally know, or at least you're guessing that you're going up against 2 or 3 other agents. It's pretty normal. Even if you're a good friend of mine and you're interviewing me, there's going to be 1 or 2 more that you're likely interviewing. And you should, right? I don't want you to use me because I'm your buddy. I want you to use me because I'm the best. And you believe that I'm going to get you through this process as smoothly as possible, making you the most amount of money as possible. That is why I want you to use me, not because I'm your buddy. So listing agents have gotten really good at stating why their commission is what it is, what their commission is. This is what you get throughout the process. We explain to you, first we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, you're going to experience this. It's all discussed in depth because you know you're competing, right? And I'm generalizing, but generally speaking. Whereas a buyer's agent, a lot of buyers, and again, I think this is partially agents' fault. A lot of buyer's agents are discovered through a Zillow phone call or a sign call or whatever way, an open house. They had contacted this buyer's agent, and most people aren't shopping buyer's agents. As long as you pick up the phone and you open doors, they work with you. So the only value most buyers see in you, unless an issue pops up and they see it and you solve it, is you open doors and you're accessible. So that's partially on us, because it is probably, that portion of it is probably 5% of a buyer's agent's job, right? There's a lot more to it. And you've given some great examples, but I'll tell you, I'm working with some phenomenal people right now, and they're VA buyers. They're intelligent people, and they've probably sent me 20 listings, and we've looked at maybe 4 or 5, because I've gone in and said, hey, this one doesn't accept VA financing. Hey, this one does accept VA financing, but the roof is 20 years old. It's going to have to be put on before you close. That's probably going to extend the closing to 6 weeks. You wanted to be in 4 weeks. Will that work for you? No, that won't work for us. There's a slew of reasons that we were able to whittle out 3/4 of those properties before we went and looked at them. And even worse, before we put an offer on them, got emotionally attached to them and then lost the properties, right? So a lot of that stuff that we do is not, if we're doing a great job, in my opinion, although I'm about to change my opinion on this, if we're doing a great job, you're not seeing a lot of that stuff. We're fixing it. You're not even knowing that it's happening. And the only time I'm bringing it up to people, because I don't want to stress you out, is when we need a decision from you, right? But I am thinking, and I would ask you this, Lissette, I'm thinking about, putting together a list of literally the 60, 70, 80 things that we do. We've got a checklist in the back end that we follow. I'm thinking about preparing that as a marketing tool to show people, hey, this is everything you get, right? These are all the different steps. And I would say too, I look at it like I look at a doctor or a lawyer. Could I do my own surgery? Oh, sure. Do I want to, or would I rather spend 6 figures worth of my money or get insurance? Or no, I'm absolutely going to pay for that guy to take care of my surgery, right? I just got a cut on my finger yesterday and a Band-Aid. That's about as far as surgery as I'll do. An attorney, right? If you're going through a divorce or a bankruptcy or anything, you're getting sued. Could you do it yourself and save the lawyer's fees? Unquestionably, you could. Is that something I want to do? I don't know anything about bankruptcy or divorce or getting sued. So I don't really want to traverse those roads by myself. So to pay a professional for me is pretty valuable, right? But it doesn't make it valuable for everybody. So I would say the same is true with us. Are there times when you could save in the example I gave, we'll just say 2.5, 3.5, maybe it's lower, maybe it's higher, whatever it is, but whatever that commission is, could you save that commission, get through a transaction, and everything be daisies? Unquestionably. Just like you could go through a divorce court case and everything turns up daisies. But if something goes sideways, are you going to wish you'd invested that money? Because once you're halfway through a transaction, there aren't a lot of agents who are going to want to take it on. And they're still going to want the full fee. And you'll have already gotten yourself into the bind. A lot of what Lissette and I do is, I call it setting the table, right? It's to set you up for success by doing things way ahead of time, by saying things ahead of time, by disclosing things ahead of time, so that the odds of getting the closing go up dramatically, right? So Lissette, I'll go back to that question about 3 years ago I asked here. Sorry, I'm getting chatty. Do you think that you're going to start marketing more to buyers what it is you do when you have those one-on-one interactions? And if so, how?
Without a doubt, I'm already going to start implementing just the initial conversation of the buyers understanding, why am I here? Why am I having this conversation with you? And how does the process look like? And what will I be doing for you? I remember back just a couple weeks ago, I was at a listing appointment and the seller goes to me when it came time to talk about commission. They're like, well, you know what? I really don't see much value in a buyer's agent. All they do is open doors. And as a listing agent, I'm like, oh, I hate hearing that because unfortunately, maybe as a buyer, you've just had an awful experience with an
Yep.
agent. There's so much more that goes on behind the scenes. And a lot of times we do protect our buyers so they don't understand little problems that may come up along negotiations, contract building, that maybe verbally we're just trying to figure out. And I think all that needs to maybe be documented and shown to our buyers a little bit more so they understand exactly how we're advocating for them and how we're trying to problem solve for them along the way.
Yeah, you know, and I'm thinking too, how are the next 6 to 12 months going to roll out? It's what is it? The end of March. So let's just say it's the beginning of April here. We've got April and May and June. We got roughly 90 days. And whatever comes out, which we don't even know what it is yet, right? These are all rumors that we've heard, but nothing's been, pen to paper yet. It's all going to happen on July 1st. I'm trying to think ahead and think about what's going to happen from everybody's point of view. What's going to happen to a listing agent? What's going to happen to a buyer's agent? What's going to happen to a seller? What's going to happen to a buyer? And I think from a buyer's perspective, you are going to see more people trying to do it themselves. We are going to see a lot of people get, man, for lack of a better phrase, absolutely screwed. Sometimes they won't even know it. I mean, I've had situations before where I'm working with a buyer who does not want to be represented, or you're working, you've got the buyer and you're going in on a for sale by owner and they do not want to be represented. And the things that you're doing to protect your client take advantage of the other side in a way that 95% of agents would protect you from. And that unrepresented person a lot of times doesn't even know it. And a lot of times it's not even something that impacts them. It's something that you have created to protect you if a situation shall arise, and they would be completely screwed. Your client would be completely protected. And because it never happened, they think, oh, this went so smooth. Yeah, you got lucky it went smooth. If any one of these 7 things had happened, you would have fallen into a trap that I'd created in that paperwork, because my job is to protect my client, and I've got years of experience to do that. So I do see a lot of people trying it, and I get it, right? I do see a lot of lawsuits coming and a lot of buyers who are probably going to lose lawsuits because they don't understand real estate law. They don't understand the contracts. They're going to pay people $500, $1,000, $1,500 to fill out a contract based on probably no or little discussion. It's going to be, hey, fill in these 17 boxes and we'll send you a contract. And that's going to hurt. We've kind of already gone through that with for sale by owners on the sell side. And you still have, I don't know what it is, I'm guessing 5% of people, 2% of people, something like that, are still selling their homes themselves. You're going to get that with buyers. But I'm guessing 15, 20% of buyers, definitely more than the 2, 3, 4, 5% I'm guessing that are selling right now themselves. You're going to get more of those people trying to buy without an agent because it's new. I also think that for a seller, it's much easier logistically to give up a commission because the majority of sellers are taking in a large amount of money at closing, right? So the amount of money that they're taking in can offset that commission. They just get a smaller check. That's doable for a lot of people. As a buyer, if you're being told, hey, on an FHA loan, you need 3.5% down, plus you're going to have 3.5% in closing costs, that's 7%. On a $400,000 deal, that's 28 grand. Oh, by the way, you need to have an agent too. That's going to be another 12 grand. A lot of people who are told, hey, you need 28 grand or whatever it is, maybe it's 20, maybe it's 30. They work, save until they get that amount of money. And then they give us a call and they're ready. If they now have to choose between increasing that another $12,000 or going alone, a lot of people are going to go alone, and you're going to see a lot of people really get hammered on this. What are your thoughts on that, Lissette?
I think a lot of things are going to change. And I think Florida, hopefully, and I've already heard brokers, EXP is one of them, that will be looking into talking to the board of realtors and finding out what are we going to do with dual agency. It's not allowed in
Yeah.
Florida. We're strictly transactional agents if we have two parties in the deal. Well, that doesn't give us a fiduciary responsibility to either party, and that's not fair either. So when buyers agents first started back in the 90s, it's because the buyers needed representation. They felt they weren't getting it from only the listing agent since they were representing the seller. So that's important for buyers to keep in mind if you're deciding going straight to the listing agent only and not having your own representation on your end.
Yeah. Yeah. And then there's, more issues. One is I'm a veteran. VA buyers are not allowed to be charged currently fees by a real estate agent, or, there are a lot of fees that you can't charge a VA buyer. So if you're not allowed to pay the fee and you can't afford the fee, and you've got a product that was given to you because of your sacrifice to your country that allows you to come in 0% down, now you can't even pay a buyer's agent if you want to. So you have to come in unrepresented. And, I know that that's a problem that is at the forefront of this discussion. They're going to come up with, they're going to come up with a solution. I don't know what the solution is, but I almost guarantee they're going to come up with a solution. If I had to guess, I'm guessing they're going to put in that one line, right? They will allow one fee, commission, whatever it's going to be called, from a buyer's agent, and that will be it. No other fee will be able to be charged, which opens other Pandora's boxes, but I'll digress on that. So that's one issue. Here's another issue. Lissette, the buyer, calls me. I'm her buyer's agent, and she says, Joe, I want to go look at these 7 homes. Now I can't just schedule the homes and let's go. I have to call every single one of those agents, and I have to say, what commission are you paying a buyer's agent? Right? And they're going to say, we're paying 3, we're paying 3.5, we're paying 2, we're paying nothing, we're paying $500. Then I got to call back. So that's 6 new phone calls. Was it 6 or 7? Let's say it's 6. Then I got to call Lissette back, the buyer, and I got to say, okay, Lissette, you and I are in agreement where you're going to owe me 3%. Now that's offset by whatever the seller's paying me. These guys are paying 3, so we're good. These guys are paying 2.5, so you're going to have to pay 0.5%. These guys are paying nothing, so you're going to have to pay the full 3% on those. So anybody in Lissette's position is going to say, let's go look at the 3s first, or whatever the higher ones are. That means she doesn't have to come up with money out of her pocket. So now the buyer pool on those listings is going to be bigger. It's going to be the full amount of buyers. 0 people are saying no to that listing, unless it's, horribly presented or overpriced, but there's nothing marketing wise that makes them say no. If you're not paying out as a seller what that buyer is responsible for paying to their buyer's agent, they might say no, or they might come in and say, okay, I got to pay 1% extra because they're only paying 2 and I'm responsible for 3. Okay, cool. Then let's not give them 400,000. Let's give them 396. So it's going to come out of your price anyway, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's going to be added phone calls. It's going to slow the process. It's going to be a lot more requirements for me to call agents, call the buyers, call them back. I got to get back to you. It's going to be a lot more challenging, and we're going to create solutions to that. That's our job. And I think too, a lot of sellers, I'm reading the news lately, and the headline I'm hearing is the NAR settlement has done away with 6% commissions. That's the most common headline I'm reading. And it's completely false, because you can still charge 10%, 1%, 6%. You can charge whatever you want that a seller agrees to, that they find you have value to support. And you can pay out whatever you want to a buyer's agent, just like you could before. The only rule before was, or I should say currently, I could list somebody's home at 6% and I can pay out $1 if I want to. I can do that with current rules. All this is saying is now you can pay out 0. So it's a $1 difference. That really, in my opinion, isn't the big deal. The 2 big deals are, number 1, you can't advertise it. So it's going to create all that extra effort. And number 2, a lot of sellers are going to be misinformed, and they're going to think this is the new norm. Joe, I'm paying you 3%. We're not paying a buyer's agent anything. And now we're going to lose a lot of that buyer pool. the last thing I'll say, and then Lissette, I'd like to hear about any issues that you've thought of that maybe I've missed, is I've heard a lot of chatter online regarding, okay, why would I pay out anything? As a listing agent, I'm going to tell my guy, hey, maybe you'll pay me 6, but let's start with 3. Are you okay with me trying to negotiate that other 3 with the buyer's agent? Yeah, let's talk about that. As those offers come in, let's talk about what we'll negotiate. Okay, great. And now they think that because of the ability to do that, they're just going to wait and negotiate. And they don't understand that, like I said in my previous example, you're not even going to have the ability to negotiate with a lot of these buyers because they're going to hear that your commission is not currently being marketed. And if you want to negotiate it, you can. And they're going to think, why? Why not go to these 3 listings that have the 3% or whatever it is already in place that I'm responsible for paying my buyer's agent? And if those don't work out, then I'll come play your negotiation games. So now, and you don't even know this as a seller, you're number 4 on the list. You might not even get a showing. And if you do, you might not get an offer. And if you do, it might be lower because they got to make up for the perceived commission loss. And on top of all that, these aren't blended into your loan. These are added closing costs, meaning it's cash out of pocket at closing. So Lissette, what else am I missing? What other hurdles are you seeing that we're going to have to find solutions to? And like I said, I don't want to be negative about this. We will. And in 10 years, the whole industry is going to change again. And in 20 years, it's going to change again. And if you're listening to this and you're a camera salesman or a car salesman or whatever, your industry is going to change too. It happens. It's just who's going to be proactive and positive and find solutions. So what other issues are you seeing, or at least, maybe they'll pop up that we need to create those solutions for?
I think upfront is just educating our sellers and them understanding this is also part of your marketing ploy. This is part of the big picture.
Yeah.
So understand in a market that where we have increasing inventory and we don't have a huge demand of buyers and that demand is coming down, how are you going to stand out from the rest of the listings? Specifically, if you say, no, we're not offering any compensation for the buyer, we're not offering any type of incentive. Now you're going to go at the bottom of the list, like you said.
Yeah.
But my biggest concern does go to my first-time home buyers. It goes to the VA clients, the people who need that representation. And unfortunately, the first thing they're going to start thinking is, I can't afford it, I'm going to go without it. And that to me hurts. And that to me is sad because those are the people that need the help. Those are the people that need the advocacy. And those are the people that need us to guide them through the transaction, try to protect them from all these risks. And I think that's where we have to really put our heads together and see how we can make it best for them and try to provide solutions for them.
I agree. It's going to be a big change. There's going to be a lot of differences in the market. And, from a real estate industry perspective, I think it's going to be better because, like I said, stronger agents have always been listing agents, and they have the ability, the comfort level to talk about confidently their commissions and what they're doing to create value for you that supports their commissions. A lot of buyer's agents, this is my opinion, are buyer's agents because they're uncomfortable talking about commission. They're uncomfortable talking about what they can do to set themselves apart from any other buyer's agent when it comes to value. This is going to force everybody on both sides of the transaction, buyer's agents and seller's agents, to show your value. And if you don't, you're going to lose and you're going to be out of the industry. You're going to have to support your commission with what it is you do for them. And if you don't, you're out of the industry. And I think that's great for the industry. I'll end with this, and then I'll let you give any last nuggets here, Lissette. The question of this video is, should I use a realtor, right? Specifically as a buyer. And I'll stick with what I said in the beginning. I think that not using a realtor is going to save you a fee, right? Whether it's a fee or a commission or whatever it is. Is it going to get you the best net? Well, it depends. If you get a crappy agent, no, it's just a fee that you're paying, and hopefully they do some admin work for you. If you get a top 10, 20% agent, which wink, wink, you should be interviewing agents on the buyer's side as well. If you get a top agent and they know how to negotiate, they know how to set you up for success, they know how to traverse an inspection, they know what to do when an appraisal falls short, they know when to use non-refundable escrow deposits, they know when to use escalation clauses and when not to use escalation clauses, they know when to bring something up and when not to bring something up. that fee will be more than made up for in your negotiation alone, right? So should you use one or not, it depends on how savvy you are, how much time you want to invest in the process. Because I would guess a typical transaction takes me 20, 25 hours. That's a guess. You've got to put that 20, 25 hours in now. You've got to know what to do, which a lot of you do. And you've got to look at it like insurance. Would you have paid the insurance to have a professional on your side to take care of all those things? And you can't just make up your mind mid transaction, because once you're kind of in that hole, you're stuck in that issue. A lot of times we can't get you out of it, right? So there's no right or wrong answer to this. It's just fully understanding the risk and the rewards before you move forward. Lissette, what are your final thoughts?
I couldn't agree more, specifically on the point that I think this is really going to weed out the agents that maybe don't step up and don't do maybe the job that they're supposed to be doing from the very get-go. I think as buyers, you should see this as an opportunity now to really sit down, interview your agent, talk to them, find out what their game plan is, find out how they're going to guide you through this transaction, how much experience they have, and now you make the decision of who wants to represent you, not just based on who can open the door for you, but what can they provide for you and how safe and secure you feel with that person representing you in a transaction.
Spot on. I agree 100%. So guys, as with any transition in any industry, there's going to be some pain up front. The pain has a silver lining, which is a lot of average to below average agents are going to get out of the business, which is great for everybody, buyers, sellers, agents, everybody. And in 12 months, we're going to have our process down. Buyers are going to kind of get it. Sellers are going to kind of get it. Anything they don't get, the agents are going to explain to them. We're going to have our process down. So whatever fear you have in place right now, I promise you in 6 to 12 months, you're going to laugh and say, well, of course we would do it this way. Why wouldn't we do it this way? And you're going to already be moving forward confidently. So guys, thanks for listening. If you got any follow-up questions or ideas for videos in the future, leave them in the comments, and Lissette and I are happy to either respond or get those videos up. Have a great day.